I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but there was a time in my life when I simply couldn't express what was going on in my mind. It was as if my thoughts were trapped, and the words I needed would never come. No matter how clearly I understood my emotions, conveying them was an immense challenge. Something always seemed to be missing. This brings about a terrible sense of frustration. It's like being imprisoned within yourself, unable to make yourself understood. This kind of communication difficulty inevitably leads to a cascade of problems. When we fail to communicate well, it feels as though everything around us ceases to function as it should. For instance, you begin to notice that the people who enter your life aren't those you truly want to connect with. Friendships become fragile and shallow, and relationships brim with conflict and high chances of failure. Even your bond with family, your parents, siblings, children, becomes strained, eroded by the lack of clear communication. And it doesn't stop there. Your professional goals will falter, and your future may fall prey to chance. Failing to communicate is relinquishing control over yourself. It's being someone who can't express their desires and, worse, not allowing your most authentic self to emerge to the world. In this video, I will share a set of tools, or rather tips, that can transform the way you communicate. Imagine yourself as a character in a game, and I'm here to provide you with new skills to evolve and refine that character. The important thing is that we do this for ourselves, to reap the rewards these changes will bring to our reality. Pay close attention. What does it mean to be articulate? Let's think together. Your fingers are articulate, as are your wrists, your arms, your neck. Every part of your body has a different degree of articulation, which allows for a range of movements and actions. The more movement options a joint has, the more articulate it is. Without fingers, for example, it would be far more challenging to grasp, feel, and interact with objects around you. Now, let's extend this idea beyond the physical. Even the simple act of holding a fork or spoon enhances your ability to interact with the world. The same principle applies to the realm of ideas. In the mental sphere, there are tools that help us articulate our thoughts. These tools connect and create points of articulation between the concepts and meanings we wish to express. The more intellectual tools you possess and know how to use, the easier it becomes to mold and transform your thoughts into something tangible. If at any point you've thought, but I don't have the right tools, remember, everyone starts without knowing. Just as a baby learns to use their legs to walk or how you learn to drive a car, you too can learn to wield your intellectual tools. There's no mystery. And just to clarify, when we talk about intellectual tools, we're not referring to becoming smarter, but to organizing your thoughts better, articulating your ideas clearly. Intelligence may come as a byproduct, but the main goal is mastering how you express yourself. Of the tools I'm about to share, you can choose to use all or just a few, whatever works best for you. You don't need to follow a fixed path. What's important is identifying where you struggle the most and what can genuinely help you. Take what resonates with you. Agreed? Then let's begin. First tool, speak calmly. Slow down when you talk. This not only gives you more time to organize your thoughts, but also allows the other person to process your words more effectively. When you reduce your pace, you control anxiety and prevent your ideas from getting jumbled. Have you ever noticed someone who speaks too quickly? They stumble, stutter, and often get lost in their words. This happens because the body and mind are interconnected. If you're outwardly agitated, your emotions and thoughts will follow the same chaotic rhythm. Neuroscience has already proven this, so give yourself time, speak with ease, think before expressing yourself. Moreover, speaking slowly conveys confidence. The more calm you appear, the more people feel that you're secure in what you're saying and in your position. Second tool, get comfortable with silence. Forget those ums, ahs, ears. They only serve to fill the void, but silence is not something to be feared. In fact, it's a sign of strength, confidence, and respect. Often we fear silence in conversations, believing it leaves us vulnerable. But the truth is, well-utilized silence demonstrates poise. When someone asks you a question and you want to respond authentically, don't rush to speak. Allow the silence to exist while you reflect. Likewise, let silence occur in the midst of your speech, in the midst of your thoughts. It gives you the space to pause and ask yourself, what do I truly think about this? And this question must be sincere, because only then will you find an authentic answer. Furthermore, Understand that there's nothing wrong with making the other person wait for your response. If they genuinely value your opinion, they will wait without issue. If they don't, perhaps they don't care as much. And in that case, why expend energy trying to please them? In the end, it's always better to take your time to say something meaningful than to rush and end up uttering something hollow. Third tool, expand your habitual vocabulary. We all have two types of vocabulary: the habitual, which are the words we use all the time, and the deep, which are the words we know but seldom use. For instance, consider the word abstract. Many people know what it means, yet rarely use it in daily conversation. Instead, they opt for complex, which is more common but carries a slightly different meaning. The point here is, the more words you have at your disposal, the easier it will be to articulate your ideas with clarity and precision. With one finger, you can pick up an object, but with 10 fingers, your interaction is far more effective. The same applies to words. They are tools, and the more you have in your arsenal, the better your ability to structure complex thoughts. Now, pay attention. To expand your deep vocabulary and bring those words into your daily usage, you need to read and expose yourself to new forms of language. Read what interests you: books, articles, poetry, but especially texts that introduce you to new terms or ones you don't frequently use. And beyond reading, you need to write, whether it's a journal, a message, or even a comment here on the video, which, by the way, I'd love to read. The key is not to write on autopilot. Before hitting send, reread your text and ask yourself, is there a word I could swap to better convey what I want to say? Over time, certain words and expressions will naturally come to mind, and the idea you're trying to communicate will become much clearer. If you're already satisfied with what you've written, great. If not, continue refining until you hit the mark. With practice, this process will become easier, and you won't have to struggle as much to find the right words. Fourth tool, know what you want to say. It won't always be necessary, but most of the time, it's crucial to have a well-thought-out and structured opinion on what you're discussing, especially on more sensitive topics. This doesn't mean your opinion has to be perfect or entirely right, but that you've at least reflected on it in a meaningful way. If your goal is to persuade someone of something, watching videos on 5 ways to persuade or 6 tricks to manipulate won't help. Honestly, that's the wrong motivation. You should seek to convince someone because you genuinely believe in what you're saying, because you've considered other options and chosen the one that made the most sense to you. This kind of thinking will give you far greater skill in transforming the ideas in your mind into clear words. When you truly believe in what you're saying, it flows naturally. But if you don't know what you're talking about, it's better to stay silent. Otherwise, you'll end up parroting something you vaguely heard, and that won't represent who you really are. You'll end up manifesting a false version of yourself. As I mentioned, this isn't necessary all the time. In casual conversations, it might not matter much. But if you want to be taken seriously, if you want to show your worldview, you need to master what you're talking about. And to do that, simply study. Dive into the subjects that interest you. Instead of spending hours watching short videos or nosing into others' lives on social media, take that time to explore a topic you've always wanted to form a solid opinion about. Fifth tool, assume the other person knows something you don't. Of course you can and should defend the idea you believe in at the moment. After all, it's what you have thus far. But if your aim is growth, it's essential to acknowledge that the other person may know something you don't, or may have considered a point you haven't. This allows you to not only analyze your own reasoning, but also theirs. You'll start asking yourself, does what they said make sense? Do the nuances of this idea connect? In other words, consider the other person's perspective as part of the whole idea's construction. Does what they've said fit in? That's the mindset you need to have during a discussion. By doing this, you'll be able to respond more thoughtfully. I don't believe in that because of such and such reason, and that impacts this other point. This also shows the other person that you're genuinely listening and thinking about what they've said, not just trying to win the argument. Too often we focus so much on proving the other wrong or asserting that we're right that we lose sight of the conversation's core purpose. A classic example: when someone gets angry or stressed over a simple question about their opinion, it reveals uncertainty and insecurity. If you believe you're speaking the truth, why would you fear being questioned? A bloated ego prevents the admission of errors, and this inability to recognize a mistake keeps you on a path that doesn't represent who you truly are. We're not just talking about admitting mistakes to others, although that can be healthy in many cases. What's most important is admitting it to yourself. Defend your point with all the conceptual tools you can, but know when it's time to think, I didn't consider that, and it makes sense. Don't cling to a wrong idea out of pride. That's harmful. It's toxic. You've probably encountered a situation where someone was so attached to their ego that they preferred to lose a friendship or a relationship rather than admit they were wrong. Remember, the other person may know something you don't, and believe me, your relationships will greatly improve once you begin thinking this way. Sixth tool. If the other person isn't listening, stop talking. This point is simple and direct. Pay attention. If the other person is more interested in arguing than discussing ideas, the best thing you can do is stop talking and walk away. Your responsibility is to try to steer the conversation in the most productive direction possible, using all the communication tools you have. And this is not just for the other person, but for the benefits it will bring to your worldview and your future. But let's be honest, there are times when dialogue becomes impossible. The other person doesn't need to agree with everything you say or admit that you know something they don't, although that would be ideal. The bare minimum is that they be willing to listen. If you don't know when to abandon a conversation, that exchange can quickly turn into a fight. And in a fight, there is no pursuit of understanding or truth, only the desire to prove who's right or discredit the other. This can lead to insults, threats, and in some cases, even physical aggression. So, learn to choose your battles wisely. Seventh tool. Don't be ashamed to say what you think. Never, under any circumstance, be afraid to express what you truly believe. Don't alter your thoughts or opinions just to please someone or fit in with a group. If you feel the need to say something, if it's important to you, speak up without fear of causing discomfort or being judged. If, in doing so, some friends distance themselves, great. That means they were connected to a false version of you, not your true self. Over time, you'll attract people who genuinely share your values and ideas. You'll begin to manifest a far more authentic reality. Many people still lie about their preferences, desires, and needs just to please others, to avoid disagreements or conflict. But if you do that, know that you're denying yourself. You become a puppet, a shapeless entity that merely accepts whatever comes its way. If you're overly concerned about others' judgment, I recommend you watch another video on my channel where I explore several reasons why we are like this and why we care so much about others' opinions. At the end, I even give some tips on how to overcome this fear and never fall into that trap again. If you're interested, go check it out. Practice. Practice a lot. Just like learning a new language, improving your communication requires constant practice. Many people struggle to become fluent in a new language because they spend too much time focusing on techniques, vocabulary, and intonation, but don't actually put into practice what they've learned. They don't speak for real. Of course, understanding theory helps, but real learning happens when you practice, repeatedly. There's no other way. Think of bodybuilding. You can study hypertrophy as much as you want, but your muscles will only grow when you actually exercise, when you hit the gym and put that knowledge into action. The same applies to communication. If you're struggling, start slow. Have a casual conversation with someone every day. Then, progress to asking questions in class, participating in debates, or even giving public presentations. Gradually move forward at your own pace until you feel comfortable. There are no limits. The sky is the limit. As I said, pick one tool, two, or all of them, whatever works best for you. The important thing is to start and be consistent. I guarantee if you commit to this, in 3 months, you'll be a completely different person. And not just in communication, but in your relationships, in how you behave and present yourself to the world. Your perspective will shift. Give it a try. What do you have to lose? Now, I just want to ask you for 2 things. If you enjoyed this and feel it was worthwhile, please hit the like button. Just scroll down a bit and click. It helps me far more than you can imagine. Lastly, if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. That way, YouTube will notify you when I post a new video. Those 2 clicks from you make all the difference to me. Thank you so much for your support from the bottom of my heart. And that's it. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for your attention and good luck.